plane lands in Russia. A foreign minister steps off. And somewhere in Washington, a decision made weeks ago is quietly unraveling. What happens in the next 72 hours could either end one of the most dangerous standoffs of this decade or push it past the point of no return. And the most shocking part? The solution already exists. It's sitting on a table, and only one country is refusing to pick it up. We're going to get to exactly who that is and exactly why by the end of this video. And trust me, that reveal changes everything you think you know about this story. But first, quick question. Where in the world are you watching this right now? Drop it in the comments. Seriously, because this story touches every country on that map. Now, let's go back to where this really begins. For months, one demand has sat at the center of every negotiation, every back-channel conversation, every diplomatic signal coming out of Washington. Iran must remove its enriched uranium. Not slow it down, not freeze it, remove it, physically, permanently. We're talking about roughly 450 kilograms enriched to 60% purity, material that can be pushed to weapons grade in a matter of weeks. Enough, according to experts, for multiple nuclear devices. This isn't one condition on a long list. This is the condition, the one that everything else depends on. Donald Trump himself said it out loud. The uranium question is 99% of the deal, his own words. So understand what that means. Solve the uranium problem and you're basically done. Leave it unsolved and nothing else matters. Now here's where the story gets complicated, because a solution appeared, a real one, not theoretical, not vague, not proposed by some think tank with no leverage, a concrete operational offer from a country that has already done this before and done it successfully. That country is Russia. Here's what Moscow put on the table. Iran transfers its enriched uranium to Russian custody. It leaves Iran entirely. It gets stored on Russian soil, processed and monitored under full international supervision by the International Atomic Energy Agency. Iran keeps its nuclear infrastructure. The dangerous material disappears from the equation. No strikes, no war, no escalation. A clean exit from the most dangerous part of this crisis. And here's the part that most coverage is glossing over completely. This isn't a new idea. This already happened. Under the 2015 nuclear agreement, Iran shipped out 97% of its enriched uranium. And where did it go? Russia, managed by Rosatom, stored, processed, verified by the IAEA for 3 solid years. The system worked. It held. There were no major violations, no diversions, no breakdowns. It functioned exactly as designed, right up until the US pulled out of the deal and the whole framework collapsed. So when Russia says today, give us the uranium again, they're not pitching a concept. They're offering to repeat something that already succeeded. So here's where you'd expect the story to go. America hears the offer solves the problem, America accepts, crisis resolved. That is not what happened. The United States rejected the Russian proposal, flat out. A U.S. official confirmed it plainly. The offer has not been accepted. And the reason? It's not that the solution doesn't work. Washington's concern is who controls the solution. Allowing Russia to take and store Iran's uranium would give Moscow a stronger position in the global nuclear fuel market. Russia, through Rosatom, already processes a significant share of the world's uranium. Adding Iran's stockpile to that strengthens Russia's leverage across Europe, Asia, and the Middle East. For the United States, which has spent years trying to reduce the world's dependence on Russian nuclear services, that's a strategic loss they're not willing to hand over. Now, on paper, that concern makes sense. It's a legitimate geopolitical calculation. But here's the cost, and it's a serious one. By rejecting Russia as the custodian, the U.S. is now demanding Iran remove its uranium through a channel that doesn't yet exist, because Iran is not handing its uranium directly to the United States. It's not going to trust U.S. allies with it either. And the idea of destroying it inside Iran requires a level of cooperation that simply isn't on the table right now. So what you're left with is this. The U.S. wants the uranium gone. Russia has the only proven method to remove it. Iran is open to the conversation. But because of who controls the solution, not what the solution actually achieves, the whole thing stalls. And then Iran makes its move. Iran's foreign minister, Abbas Araghchi, boards a plane, not to Oman, not to Geneva, not to any neutral ground where America might be watching closely. He flies directly to St. Petersburg to sit face-to-face with Vladimir Putin. That is not a coincidence. That is a message. Iran is saying, without saying it, if Washington won't use this mechanism, we will keep that mechanism alive ourselves. And Russia receives that message loud and clear. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov confirms publicly that the offer to take custody of Iran's enriched uranium is still active, still standing, not withdrawn, not expired, waiting. 4 words that carry enormous weight. It has not been acted upon. But the story doesn't stop there, because before Araghchi even landed in Russia, he made another call to China's Wang Yi. Before speaking with several regional players, before the public moves were visible, Iran looped Beijing in first. China said nothing publicly after that. No statement, no reaction, no visible positioning. Complete silence. But that silence is not absence. It is strategy. China has been quietly purchasing Iranian oil for years, giving Tehran economic breathing room that allows it to be patient instead of desperate. Just days before Araghchi's Russia visit, China and Russia both participated in discussions with the IAEA specifically about Iran's nuclear program. That meeting happened 3 days before this trip. That sequence is not accidental. It's coordination. It's alignment before action. What you're watching is Iran, Russia, and China moving in the same direction without making noise about it. And that convergence is exactly what makes this moment so significant. Now here is the part most people are missing, the part that reframes everything. This weekend, Iran didn't make one diplomatic move. It made 2 at the same time. Through Pakistani mediators, Iran presented the United States with a separate proposal. The idea was to split the crisis in 2. Open the Strait of Hormuz immediately, stabilize global markets, ease the pressure, and give Washington a fast, visible win, then deal with the nuclear question separately on a slower track. That's a relief valve, a way for America to claim a short-term victory without solving the hardest problem right now. Simultaneously, Araghchi flies to Moscow to reinforce the long-term path. The uranium solution is built. Russia has it. It's operational. Come when you're ready. 2 exits offered in one weekend, one to stop the bleeding, one to heal the wound. Iran essentially handed Washington a menu and said, pick one. Washington picked neither. The response was to step back, cancel certain engagements, and signal, call us. And that's the gap that defines this entire moment. Available solutions on one side, political hesitation on the other. Now here is the uncomfortable truth that this whole story has been building toward, and this is what most coverage refuses to say directly. Both Russia and China benefit from this conflict continuing. Every day that global oil supply is disrupted, Russia's energy revenues climb. Reports indicate Moscow was generating hundreds of millions of euros per day during peak tension periods. Russia wins if the deal is accepted. It becomes the central custodian of Iran's nuclear material and earns enormous diplomatic credit. But Russia also loses if the deal is rejected. Prices stay elevated, its windfall continues, and U.S. credibility takes damage with every week of unresolved crisis. China benefits from continued discounted access to Iranian energy. It benefits from a global environment where Western influence looks strained. It doesn't need to dominate the headline, it just needs the situation to stay exactly as it is. So when you step all the way back and look at the full picture, Iran is offering solutions, Russia is holding the mechanism, China is sustaining Iran's patience, and the United States is waiting for an alternative that does not currently exist. That is not just a diplomatic disagreement, that is a structural trap, because every sanction, every delay, every week of stalled talks doesn't only hurt Iran, it also strengthens the position of the two most powerful countries standing behind it. Trump said the uranium question is 99% of the deal. Russia is openly offering to solve that 99%, and the United States said no. So now the world watches. Iran's foreign minister is sitting across from Putin in St. Petersburg. The mechanism is on the table. The IAEA is ready to supervise. The technical and legal frameworks already exist. The only missing piece is a yes from Washington. And the longer that yes doesn't come, the more this story stops being about uranium. It becomes about something bigger, about who holds leverage in a new global order, about which countries are gaining power quietly while the headlines focus elsewhere, and about whether the United States can afford to keep rejecting the only solution it doesn't fully control. That is what this meeting in Russia is really about. Not uranium, power, positioning, and the future shape of a world where the decisions made in the next few weeks will matter long after this crisis fades from the front page. If you made it here, you now know more about this story than 99% of people watching the news right now. Share this with someone who needs to understand what's actually happening. And drop a comment. Do you think Washington eventually accepts the Russian mechanism, or does this go somewhere much darker? I'll see you in the next one.